Yo, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Adamoose, and today in this series called In Depth, I'm going to be breaking down everything that you need to know about Viego Jungle.
Every living thing is my subject.
Viego is a pretty unique new champion that has completely shook up the meta in Season 11. He's a powerful carry that has a ton of outplay potential when mastered. If you enjoy the content, it really helps me out if you could leave a like and comment on the video to help your boy out with the YouTube algorithm. If you want to talk with me and other members in the community that are looking to improve, be sure to join the Discord link that's in the description. I hope you guys can learn something. Enjoy the video. Abilities. First things first, let's break down Viego's abilities and some tips and tricks to make use of his kit to its full potential. Viego's passive is called Sovereign's Domain. Recent enemies who have been hit by Viego and die within 3 seconds become wraiths. By basic attacking a wraith, Viego becomes invulnerable, temporarily taking control of their body, healing, and blinking to their location. He then gains access to the stolen enemy's basic abilities, items, and stats for a maximum of 10 seconds. He also replaces their ultimate with a free cast of his own ult once level 6. Viego will preserve his current health percentage between transformations and is unable to move, basic attack, or cast his abilities during this duration. This passive can be extremely broken, but also requires a ton of game knowledge to use it to its full potential. Every time you get an enemy's soul, knowing when and how to make use of that champion's kit properly is extremely important to master Viego. Viego's Q is called Blade of the Ruined King. Passively, Viego's basic attacks deal bonus physical damage on hit. On top of that, Viego's damaging abilities also apply a mark to enemies for 4 seconds. Viego's next basic attack against marked targets strike twice, dealing extra physical damage and healing himself. This second strike is affected by critical strike modifiers and on-hit effects as well. Actively, Viego thrusts his sword in the target direction, dealing physical damage to all enemies hit. Your Q also deals extra damage to monsters, aiding in Viego's jungle clear. It's important to weave this spell in between autos to maximize damage, especially since it's a very short cooldown. Viego's W is called Spectral Maw. Viego charges up before dashing forward, releasing a ball of concentrated mist that stuns the first enemy that's hit. The longer you charge Spectral Mist, the missile range and stun duration are also increased. While charging, Viego is slightly slowed and can also be cancelled by CC. Keep in mind that your W resets Viego's basic attack timer, and you can use any other abilities while dashing. If the charge is interrupted, Spectral Maw will be placed on a shorter 3-second cooldown. An important combo to note is W Flash. This allows you to quickly gap close against unsuspected targets who would be out of range otherwise, greatly increasing your playmaking potential. Viego's E is called Harrowed Path. Viego sends out a trail of mist in the target direction, which lasts 8 seconds. The mist spreads around the first terrain that it encounters. When Viego is inside the mist, he gains bonus attack speed. If he's not attacking or casting, he becomes camouflaged and gains bonus movement speed as well. He can also cast this during any of his other abilities. This ability allows Viego to sneak around terrain and become extremely powerful in 1v1 duels due to the extra attack speed DPS that it gives you. This ability is very flexible and has many different uses. Firstly is making sure that you don't use the mist along walls that connect with enemies' vision to avoid giving up your location for free. You can also use your mist to play mind games with enemies, making it seem like you're trying to sneak up in stealth when in reality you're running the other direction, or even waiting patiently in the mist, applying pressure while not actually doing anything. Viego's ultimate is called Heartbreaker. Viego blinks to a nearby location and bursts all nearby enemies upon arrival, dealing massive physical damage. This causes a shockwave that targets either the nearest or lowest HP enemy that knocks away all their allies. The champion targeted also gets massively slowed and will take any on-hit effects as well. This ability's damage scales with bonus AD, crit, and the target's missing health, making this a great tool to execute enemies. If Viego possesses an enemy champion, your ultimate cooldown gets reset, allowing you to really pop off in chaotic teamfights. To discard your current possession, simply ult and repeat the process of taking down your next target. If a possession is discarded, Heartbreaker will be placed on a 1.5 second cooldown. When using Heartbreaker, Viego also becomes immune to CC, allowing him to outplay any key abilities that would lock him down and buffer right through the crowd control. For ability maxing, Viego maxes Q first, E second, and W third in pretty much all situations. Runes. Now that we've broken down Viego's kit, let's discuss his best rune options for Season 11. First off, and most common by far, is Conqueror. Conk is just so damn good on Viego since it gives him damage, sustain, and can be stacked up extremely fast with his Q and auto attack resets. If you're against an extremely squishy team comp, Press the Attack is also viable, but to be honest, I recommend Conqueror over PTA in 95% of games. To close out the precision tree, Triumph and either Legend Alacrity for more DPS, or Legend Tenacity versus heavy CC teams. Coup de Grace is the best option into squishy teams for the extra execute damage, while Last Stand is better in games with more frontliners since you can sustain up more when you're low and extend fights for even longer. For secondary, the Inspiration Tree is definitely the most consistent setup to go to on Viego. Magical Footwear and Cosmic Insight are going to be your main choices. If you follow my videos, this secondary is pretty much standard on every jungler, and it's definitely no exception for Viego. Domination Secondary is another decent option with either Cheap Shot or Sudden Impact and Relentless Hunter. Although not as consistent, it can be a fun setup if you can pick up some early Bounty Hunter stacks. Another interesting setup I've been seeing run by some high elo Viego players is actually Predator. Now this is definitely not the go-to rune page for every game, but it's actually pretty interesting into immobile enemy laners to gain some massive ganking potential. It's important to keep the other options in mind, but to remember that Conqueror is by far the most consistent setup if you're looking for the best overall results. Items. Now let's discuss the best item builds for Viego Jungle. His builds have been all over the place this season, so let's cover all of his options and what's strongest in the current meta. To start, both Red Smite and Blue Smite are viable options depending on the enemy team comp. Red Smite is the best choice in most cases for the extra dueling power, while Blue Smite allows you to chase down mobile carries more easily. For boots, Plated Steel Caps and Merc Treads are going to be your main options in 99% of games. Either Steel Caps for armor against auto attack based teams, or Mercury Treads to get some tenacity into tons of crowd control. For Mythics, Divine Sunderer and Immortal Shield Bow are going to be your main options. Sunderer used to be by far the best choice, but after the nerfs, it opens up some more options for Viego. Sunderer is still a great choice into beefier teams since it gives passive armor shred, while Shield Bow provides you with tons of sustain and an anti-burst shield, which makes Viego a monster at fighting high damage, squishier targets. Kraken Slayer is a less common, but still strong choice if you want the highest possible DPS build. Just keep in mind that you're a glass cannon with this setup, and any mistakes will leave you pretty much instantly dead. For core items, Blade of the Ruined King, Steraks Gauge, Death's Dance, and Wit's End are by far the most commonly built choices. Bork is a staple on Viego to shred high health targets, Steraks is commonly built with Divine Sunderer for an anti-burst shield and some more tankiness, Death's Dance for survivability into AD, and Wit's End for magic resist into heavy AP. From this point, your choices are really wide open depending on what you need in the current game. Your main goal should be to build as much damage as you can, while also building efficient defensive items to make yourself as tanky as possible to survive burst in the mid to late game fights. Knowing which items to build in each specific game is really important and will greatly increase the success you have on Viego. Jungle clears. Now let's discuss Viego's general jungle strategy and pathing. Learning how to clear efficiently on Viego is going to be step 1. First is your Q, which is a very short cooldown and deals AoE damage. The main thing to remember is to always time your Qs around your auto attacks to avoid cancelling animations. Next is dragging your AoE camps so that your Q can hit all of the monsters at once, which will greatly increase your clear speed. Next is making sure that you use your W as an auto attack reset. Although most people do not see these things as a big deal, using all your spells to their maximum potential will help you out a ton throughout an entire game. Another very important tip is to avoid placing your E mist close to walls when you're clearing, since this can give away your position on the map for no reason. Too many times I see Viegos autopiloting and using their E around jungle walls and giving up their location, giving the enemy free info on the map. Speaking of your E, a good trick is to start charging your W inside the mist, giving enemies way less time to react since they will not see the wind up. Lastly, before discussing jungle clears, it's important to understand that Viego actually likes to play fights slowly, using possessions and extra ult resets at the right times to avoid CC and draw out fights. I mention this because I see too many Viegos committing way too hard and getting instantly deleted, where simply waiting and picking off low health enemies can make an absolutely massive difference. Now for actual jungle paths, The most consistent and by far most common among high elo players I watch is the 5 camp clear into scuttle. This can be done leashless on either side of the map and consists of killing 5 camps towards your desired scuttle to contest it and hit level 4. It's important to remember that Viego is actually not the strongest early game jungler, and sometimes planning your path away from the enemy jungler can be ideal. If you're against a weak early game jungler such as Zac, you can also consider a full clear into scuttle path to really maximize your farm. Just remember that doing a full clear into an aggressive jungler such as Xin Zhao is risky and can make you lose both scuttles if the enemy jungler is on the ball. Lastly is the 3 camp gank or invade path, which is the most aggressive approach. This usually consists of clearing both buffs and Gromp, then ganking or invading, or clearing one side of your jungle, then ganking mid on the way. Although this is a riskier path, it can still be very strong to punish enemy laners who are overextended, or to invade weak junglers to get an early advantage. Weaknesses. Viego's biggest weakness is that his kit is pretty low mobility without ult, and can be punished very hard with bad positioning. Since your main tool to sneak around is your E, getting caught in your mist can a lot of times just mean death. This gets even harder when playing into heavy CC team comps or versus assassins. In short, Viego does not have great defensive tools, which makes him a very feast or famine type of champ. To build onto this, Viego's a pretty high skill cap champion that can be very difficult to pilot to his full potential. Since most times you need to fully commit when fighting on Viego, not knowing his limits can be the difference between instantly dying and resetting a bunch of times for a pentakill. Lastly is that Viego's early game is not the best, and being inexperienced on him can make it seem hopeless early on. Although he's still pretty strong in early fights and straight up duels, he still loses to many of the meta champs. Learning how to path according to this weakness and scale up into the mid and late game is probably the biggest difference between an average Viego and a great one. Strengths. Now let's discuss what makes Viego such a powerful jungler in the right hands. First is that he has insane carry potential and is a great pick to learn if you want to start carrying your games. Not only is his single target DPS extremely high, getting possession resets in teamfights can instantly turn the tides for your team. Although this can sometimes be difficult to pull off, learning how to commit just enough in fights to get kills and start popping off is going to be crucial to your success. Next is that Viego scales very well with items, meaning that there is usually no rush to close out a game. Since you can pop off from getting a single takedown, Viego actually thrives in those mid to late game fights around objectives, especially if you have some items under your belt. To build onto this, Viego is actually an amazing duelist and team fighter, meaning that he can thrive in almost any fight situation, depending on if you play it well, of course. This makes playing against a good Viego extremely difficult, since finding a winning fight opportunity usually depends on them making a mistake. Viego is just an all-around flexible champion who can switch up his build to fit any game. He can build as a duelist to win 1v1 brawls, or he can build bruiser style to thrive in teamfights. If you're looking for a hard carry champion that has massive pop-off potential with enough mastery, Viego is definitely the pick for you. That will do it for my in-depth guide on Viego Jungle. If you want to support my content, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to keep up with my weekly uploads. Most people who watch are not subbed, and any extra support really helps my channel grow. If you have any questions or opinions, be sure to leave them in the comments below. I'll be giving away free coaching sessions every month to members of the Discord, so be sure to click the link in the description if you're interested. With all that being said, thanks again for watching. Until the next video, peace out.